Hi, and welcome to Diversity in the Community. I am so happy to have a special guest with me today who actually used to be on the board of directors here at Win TV, Lucinda Canty. She's a mother, certified nurse midwife, educator, researcher, scholar, artist, poet, and activist. Lucinda, welcome back to Win TV.
Thank you.
It is
Thank you
so
for
great to
having
have
me.
you. It's so great to have you here. Oh my God, we used to have so much fun down here.
Yes,
And
yes.
and boy, have you accomplished a lot since the last time you were here.
Yes, yes. Even my son, I think my son was little. I don't
Yes.
think he was a year, and now he's 12 years old and taller than me.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yes.
goodness. I see all the wonderful meals he makes for you.
Yes, that's my
Yeah.
son.
So I've been following you on social media and all of the wonderful things that you have been doing. So um, tell me about yourself and what you've been doing.
Okay, okay. I have been in nursing for a long time. I'm actually going on 30 years. Actually, I think it's past 30 years now, but don't do the math. But I've been practicing nursing for a while, have been a midwife for about 26 years, and have been an educator for about 13 years now. So
Wow.
I've been, really like educating nurses, working, advocating, mentoring students, and I started to work on my PhD and started looking into Black maternal health,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's where I started to kind of learn more about some of the inequities that were happening, and decided that, do I stay silent with what I've learned or do I speak up? And
Yes.
since then, have been speaking up in several different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I exist in a lot of lanes
Yeah.
because that's the way I have to kind of survive
Yes.
to
Yes.
be able to provide, the information and care that I provide.
Because I've been following you, you brought a lot of things to people that we had no idea about. You
Hmm.
know, you
Yes.
about the what you call the disparities or the differences between
Hmm.
the African American, or I don't know if it's just African American, but other races,
Yes.
how they are treated when they go into
Hmm.
yeah, and even with
Yes.
I wanted one thing I wanted to ask you about is I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. The doula, how
Yeah,
do
doula.
doula?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, doula care.
Um, the first time I heard about it, I think when you were talking about it, and I don't think a
Yes.
lot of women even know that
Okay.
that's available. Could you talk about
Yes,
that?
yes. So doulas have a long history. We're learning more about them in Connecticut. Some states use doulas more than others, but doulas are women who, I shouldn't say just women. They're not healthcare providers, but they're health. I consider them healthcare professionals, and they provide support to women during pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum. There are doulas that do help even with grief. If somebody has a loss, that offers them support with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I became more interested in them with my work, because when I would talk to women, and I just want to say, like, the disparities, and even with COVID has made them worse, but the disparities with maternal mortality are that Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die. In certain states
Wow.
in the country, they're more like 7, even 12 times more likely to die
Wow.
compared to white women. And Native American women are shortly behind that.
Mm.
And in the Hispanic and Latinx communities, they were always lower, but even over the past year, we've seen a significant increase. So
Wow.
there's more that we have to do. And when I first started looking into this, people would tell me, just these negative things that try to blame the woman. Oh, she's not doing this, she's not eating right, she has a lot of diseases, she starts prenatal care late, she's poor, she's not married, like all these things. And I'm like, but I know people who are married and still have complications.
Mm-hmm.
I know people who have money, like Serena Williams or Beyonce, that still have complications. So there's more to the story. And when I start talking to women, I interview women who almost died, like a life-threatening complication
Mm-hmm.
that they didn't think they were going to survive. And some of them had their babies, and they were still wondering who's going to take care of my baby if
Wow.
I'm gone. Like that. That's how serious it was. And women who had their providers be very supportive to them had a better outlook on the experience.
Mm-hmm.
But there are women who came in with symptoms that were ignored. There were women who had these severe complications being, young, being 21 years old and having a hysterectomy, and then no
Wow.
one offering them support after. So I feel like doulas are what could help women, all women, but I think women of color really need that support
Yes.
because still, unfortunately, we're not seen. And that's a difficult thing. Even myself, I've been a nurse for years, a nurse midwife, and still when I enter the system, I feel like sometimes it even starts at the front desk. You go in to check in for your appointment, and the person doesn't even look up to acknowledge you. Then when they finally do, they want your insurance card. Now, how are you? What's going on? It was nice to see you.
Yeah.
So it's like it starts there, and it continues, unfortunately, all the way through.
Wow.
But we know the provider has an important role in how we feel in our care, but we also, sometimes we just need the extra support, and doulas can do that.
Yeah. One thing I read that I saw you on another program, and it was it really kind of bothered me. It was like, I don't know if it was, you said it was a young woman, or it could be several, where people just come in and start working on them, especially if they're not married, checking them out without even talking to them. It's just like the head and body, the head piece is not there. They just do what they have to do.
Yeah. It's like they don't matter. And sometimes, and we know that their students have to learn. I was a student, and as a nurse midwife student, I want to learn how to do these sensitive exams, but I still would not go in and just examine someone and not say who I am. And there were even patients that I worked with that were seen when they were were in labor or just being evaluated, whether it's an emergency room or labor and delivery, and they didn't even know who was checking them. And then on top of that, they didn't even know what was going on because the person didn't even take the time to explain. They just gave medications. So the patient needed the medications, but they didn't take them. So they're asking me, do I need to take this?
Wow.
But it's almost like we're not seen as being human. And we know all women aren't treated that way.
Wow.
So it's unfortunate, and it happens in our healthcare system. We ignore it, and that's part of my work is bringing attention to that. I feel as healthcare providers, one myself, that we have to acknowledge who's in front of us and see them as human, and we have to be accountable for the care we provide.
Right.
And I always said for myself, even as a nurse, I never wanted someone to come in and be traumatized by my care. Or someone's already vulnerable, because most people, and we know, and I'm going to say it, Black people, when we come in, there's always something usually going on with us, because we know sometimes we do wait. We don't always wait, but sometimes we have symptoms, and we say they're going to go, they're going to get better. But when we show up for care, it's because we're worried.
Yeah.
So it is not like we're worried we just have a common cold. We're worried that something is more serious going on with us.
Right.
So when you come in, you're already vulnerable, you're scared. You want that other person on the other end to be, who are you? Tell me what's going on. What's important to you?
Right.
That doesn't always happen. So that's the part that I want to work towards changing, especially for women who are giving birth.
Wow. And you have made so many people aware of this that wasn't before, because I know I started being more aware of it when I started looking at the things that you were posting. So thank you so much for that. Well, you just kind of talked about why maternal health is important, especially in the Black community. So you talked about that. What should Black women know if they are considering pregnancy?
Okay, if they're considering pregnancy, and first, even though the statistics are out there, I don't want them to be scared and go into their pregnancy scared. A lot of the conditions that we see are preventable. And what I want women to know is first, make sure that, you take care of yourself, that you're seen before you become pregnant, so that you could be screened for like medical conditions. And sometimes it's just about having your questions answered. I see women who are thinking about becoming pregnant, and they'll come in and say, I just want to know, am I eating right? Should I start exercising? Like, they have those questions. So we have those discussions beforehand. And then once pregnancy happens, and I want to say that this is what I found to be actually true, is that Black women go in for prenatal care early. I've seen some Black women, I think they come in at conception. They come in so quick. So that's a myth that we don't come in. But for those who don't, or who are a little nervous, it's always better to come in and have a checkup. Even if you think you may be pregnant, but you're not sure yet, you could still just come in and be examined and then talk to someone about your pregnancy. But I know there's a lot out there, but you don't have to be afraid. just keep in mind that you have to be able to get what you need from your healthcare provider.
Right, right.
And there's resources that can help you to just prepare for a visit. Pregnancy is very overwhelming. I remember, and I'm saying this, and I was a midwife when I was pregnant with my son. You still have so many questions.
Yeah.
You know, because something's happening that you're not really sure how things are going to turn out. There's so many questions that you didn't talk about before, like even just nutrition. A lot of things we don't really talk about, but when you're pregnant, you start thinking more about that. And you start thinking, am I doing this right? So you just have to realize that any question you have, I feel like no question is a dumb question and no question is too small.
Right, right, right.
If you need a provider you're comfortable with asking about that.
I read this on your page, and I just want you to explain it to me. It says, "It was in the shadows where I learned my history, my strength, and understood my purpose. I found my voice. Now the sun shines light on an existence I never thought I would see, releasing a power I always knew existed. I am no longer afraid to show who I am, the emergence of a nursing scholar." I love that. I love that. So how did, I love that. Could you talk about that?
Thank you. So I think I just feel like just in my life, and I know it has to do with me being Black, it's like you always are being told that you can't do this, you can't do that. And I used to internalize a lot of that. And like even when I was thinking about going to nursing school, a guidance counselor told me, "Oh, you probably get into this Capital Community College, but no other colleges would accept you." All the other colleges accepted me except for Capital. So I was like, okay, so this is meant to be. People are like, "Oh, nursing is hard, that's difficult." And it was like I became a nurse. And then I wanted to become a nurse midwife. You're not gonna, that's gonna be difficult. And I went to Yale. "Oh, Yale's not gonna accept you." Someone actually told me that to my face.
Oh,
and I
my
got
God.
accepted and I became a nurse midwife. And then I went back to school to get my PhD. "Oh, that's gonna be difficult, that's gonna be hard." So it was like all these things. And somebody even tried to tell me a place I applied, they were like, "Oh, your GRE scores, we're not sure if you could do this program."
Oh, my goodness.
So I was like, I'll just go to another program then. And I got my PhD. And then even like, it's just this process where I had to learn about myself and I had to trust myself. And I realized that so many times people tried to like take away what I knew and what I could do. So I felt like it was in the shadows. I was like, well, if that's what they think about me, I know better. And I'm going to do what I have to do. So I felt like I had to do that in the shadows. And then now I'm emerging.
Oh, I
and
love
I'm like,
it. I love it. I love it.
And that's one thing I've learned is that you have to acknowledge what you can do and you can't be afraid to show it.
Yeah.
I see people who they like, I'll just like looking at the confirmation hearings. People just talk any kind of way. So I'm like, if they can say those crazy things and talk to a Black woman that way and feel good about themselves, I'm going to talk about the positive things that I'm doing and that other people are doing and uplift that. So I feel like now nobody's holding me back.
Yeah. I love it. Because, I've known you for a few years. And now that I see the post that you put out, I said, it's the same little quiet.
Yes.
Oh my God. And that's when you got that strength and confidence in and you could see it. Oh my God, you could see it.
It took time, but I realized that I feel like it was always there. But I think sometimes we have this fear. And I had that fear where I would sit and things would happen. And then I saw this quote by Audre Lorde that, we're afraid to speak, so we stay silent.
Yeah.
But when we stay silent, we're still afraid. So I'm like, what do I have to lose? I try things. If I don't make it, at least I can say I tried it without anyone holding me back.
Right. Right.
So, but it feels good. I have to say it feels good now.
And it's so wonderful. And now this I'm going to talk about is so well deserved. You will be honored for your accomplishments and contributions at the 100 Women of Color event this year. So well deserved.
Thank you.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, that was, and it's an honor. It's an honor. And I even when I saw the email, I became very emotional because I feel like I'm being recognized for things that I love doing, things that I feel like I worked hard for, and I feel like what I do, I feel like I'm doing things for myself for growth, but I'm also supporting other people. So sometimes I have like nursing students come back and say, you know, it's because of you. This is how I look at things. I've had nursing people come back and say, you know, I was going to give up and I decided not to give up. So I'm doing it. So I'm getting emotional. I'm doing it.
It's all right. It's all right.
And, you know, even now I'm seeing there's some students who are graduating from St. Joe's, and they have been through it. They've been working hard. And now to see them as seniors and their confidence, and they're like, I don't know if I would have made it without you. Even though I think they would have, because all I did was help them just see their own power and their own strength. But I feel like this is like me being acknowledged for that. And that's something that I wasn't always expecting.
Oh my God. I saw when you were talking about some of the students, and you could just see or read the pride that you had, that you were helping. Oh my God.
Yes. I love what I do. I love what I do.
Wonderful, wonderful. I also read, see, I've been doing my homework. You were honored to Making History during Black History Month. You want to tell me? I can read what they have on here, but can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I went to UConn for my PhD, and they acknowledged like students who graduate, I should say alumni who graduated, and are doing things, you know, to support nursing or contributing to nursing. So I was one of the people recognized for that. So that they recognize my teaching, the research that I'm doing, my work with Black maternal health.
Oh
So
my
it was
goodness!
being acknowledged for that, and it was a nice surprise as well.
Yeah, that was so beautiful. You did a presentation, a radical deconstruction of the theoretical boundaries in health disparity research. Can you
Yes.
explain that?
Yes, yes. And research I found, and again, this is through, you know, becoming a researcher, is how important it is to solving issues and solving problems, especially within our communities. But for people of color, there's a lot of distrust of research. There's a lot of distrust how things are done, or if someone does give their story, what the person is going to do with it. And so just looking at this was how, when people do research, because unfortunately it's still predominantly white, and even white researchers researching people of color, not to say it can't happen,
Right.
but there's something that we bring that shows our experience, that we understand who we're working with. And so so for that presentation, we looked at how are you using race in your research, and are you looking at race, and is it to help and liberate, or is it to cause harm? So it was just bringing awareness to that. Because some people do look at race, like when I looked at Black maternal health, they look at just the numbers. And a lot of times those numbers end up blaming us for our health outcomes. It doesn't look at our experiences.
Right.
So if you're looking at race, are you taking into account that? And my own research looks at the experience of women. So I can look at the numbers and say, oh, this person started her prenatal care late, but when I talk to her and she tells me, well, I tried to get an appointment and I couldn't get an appointment, or I didn't have insurance. And when I had insurance, they said they didn't take my insurance. You know, it's like you learn more about what the issues are, so it helps you to understand that.
Yes.
And I have to say, like, when it comes to research, when I started wanting to interview Black women, I was told, oh, they're not going to want to talk to you. They don't trust research. But I said, you know, I'm just going to present who I am, you know, and that I'm a mother as well, but the reasons why I'm doing this. And I had women who didn't even qualify for my study still want to talk to me. So the women are out there. They were even asking, are you going to look at infertility? Are you going to look at women who have miscarriages? Like, because there's a lot of issues in our community we don't talk about.
Right.
So they were like asking me, they're telling me that they want the research, but it's all about how we present it and what we do with the information.
Right. Wonderful. And I was about to ask you too, what are you doing in the community? You're doing so much in the community. You can tell me some more though, because I know there's more.
Well, I'm starting an initiative called Lucinda's House. It's going to be providing like support to women of color, particularly Black women, but all women of color. Is to provide like education, especially throughout their pregnancy, and support, and also offer help to find like resources. Like right now, I have funds that will cover doula care or even midwifery care if like their insurance won't cover it. Or right now, with doula care is not being covered by insurance. So there's parts advocacy that I'm doing to help get that, so that doulas can actually make a living and get reimbursed for their services, but that women can have them also.
Okay.
So I'm looking at ways to help women individually, and then also look at some structural things that come out.
Okay.
And one is doula care, because I just want women to know, if you're pregnant, thinking about becoming pregnant, or you recently had a baby, there are doulas that can offer you support. So they can reach out on social media. I have a website, but it's not ready yet. It's going to be
Okay.
lucindashouse.org. It's going to be up by Black Maternal Health Week. That's my goal to launch everything.
Wonderful. Now, over the years, my mother was a midwife, and back in the day, they went to these little classes, and they helped with all the babies that were in their little neighborhoods and stuff. It has really changed over the years, and what has the changes been like since when my mother was back in the
Yeah. And I feel like with midwifery, those were the good old days, because those were the days where there was really a sense of community. Their women were from the community, caring for women from the community, and with less resources than we have today, we had better health outcomes. So I said those are the good days.
Yes, yes.
Because you had someone who knew you and knew, and I was reading about traditional midwives and how Black midwives and how they were in the community and they didn't have people who could pay, but it didn't change their care.
Right.
But one midwife said, "Oh, she didn't have money, but she gave me 2 chickens, so I took the chickens." But it was a different sense then, and it still exists now. But the thing is that there was that change from home births to hospital births. And with that, there was a little loss of that sense of community.
Yeah.
But also, now you're in the hospital, you're hooked up to things. There's someone who doesn't really know you. They're just there for the shift.
Yeah.
Not to say you still can't have a good relationship, but those are things that could cause barriers. So we're trying to just get back to where women feel safe giving birth. So one of the things that I'm doing, another thing, because I look at history, is I'm looking at what was done then that we can start doing now and offer support. Like, I feel like doulas are like that midwife back in the day. Because they were from the community and they knew the challenges.
Right.
But it didn't hold them back. I always feel like we found ways to survive. I read about a midwife who she would go into a home, actually interviewed her. She was like, there was no electricity, no running water. She used newspaper to make a bassinet.
That's right.
And the baby was fine and the mom was fine.
Yep.
Not to say complications didn't happen, but still because of that support, they were able to even stay on top of that. So there's a lot of stories about, midwives back then, they weren't safe. We're finding that's untrue. That they were safe.
Yeah, you're right. Because one thing my mother used to say, she ended up in her older years developing dementia. But one thing she would always remember, and I don't know why she got stuck on the number 85, but she would say, "I delivered 85 babies and never lost a one." But she did remember. She didn't remember the exact number, but she said in all the births she never lost. There was never a loss.
Yes.
And she was doing it back in the 50s.
Very, like, hospitals wouldn't even take people of color, so they had no choice but to have their babies in the home.
Yeah.
And still have better health outcomes.
Yeah.
So we got to look more into that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing that I noticed that you started is doing art.
Yes.
So tell me about that. How did you get into it? Girl, I'm telling you, all these surprises coming out. Yes, tell me.
I always loved art and poetry. And it was just something that I always did, but I was kind of shy about my art. So I would do drawings, paintings, and then I would write my poetry. But I was still shy to be in front of like a group to share it.
Yeah.
And then with nursing school, it's like everything is science. So I couldn't do the art like I wanted to. But when I did my research, I was able to use art to express the themes that the women came out with. So there was like something about them feeling safe. So I drew a picture about that. That when they were afraid, I drew a picture about that. So I was able to bring out my artwork. So now it's like I actually was doing a series on racism in nursing, and we were putting it together. And one of the organizers, she was like, let's find some poetry that we could read. So I was like, I was a little scared. And I was like, I write poetry. And then she was like, okay, Lucinda's going to do the poetry. And she kept on talking. And I was like, what? So I was like, I wrote something and I just decided to read it. And then everyone was like, oh my God, we love hearing your poetry.
Wow.
So I just kept, now I just am more open about it in my artwork too.
Oh my
So it
goodness.
was something I did that was kind of hidden. That was one of the things in the shadows.
A lot of
And
stuff is
then-
coming out in the shadows. Oh my God. Beautiful though. That is so beautiful. And so you bought some poetry.
yeah.
Yeah. So you want to read some for us?
Okay.
Okay.
So, and this was the one of the first ones that I wrote for the program that I did, and it was called The Invitation. And both these poems like kind of represent why I do the work that I do. So this first one's entitled The Invitation. I was invited to the party, but I was not allowed to dance. While the movements were beautiful, I could not see any traces of myself. Where was I in the sequence of expressions? How can I fit in when I never learned the steps? As the dance became more complex, I could not see myself. So I could see myself then floating further and further away. I was given a seat at the table, but I wasn't allowed to speak, expected to sit quietly while others spoke their truths. Using a language that I never understood, words so eloquent, I could not see them eradicating my existence. My silence signified an acceptance I never consented to, my contributions made absent in its never-ending story. My challenges never heard, my story never told. It was as though I don't exist. Maybe, just maybe, I was not expected to accept the invitation.
Wow. Wow. Oh my God, that is beautiful. That's so touching.
Thank you. Thank you.
That is just so touching.
Thank you so much.
Ah, my goodness, that is beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
can't wait to hear the second one. I can't wait to because I'm in a writers group myself,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's why I just really appreciate
Oh, thank you.
beautiful writing. That is
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you. And this one is called entitled "This Land We Call America," and this kind of like originated from the stories from the women that I spoke to. Again, this land we call America. I sit in the complexities of life, wondering if I will ever feel safe as a Black woman on this land we call America. You call the land of the free, the home of the brave, free, brave. I wish those words could mean the same things to me and the sons and daughters that I will birth on this land my ancestors built. This land called America, built on the backs of Black bodies, a forgotten history of birth, of pain, of suffering, but also of resilience and determination. It is because of Black women that I am here. I am inflicted with 400 years of harm, still affecting the treatment of my womb. A Black body I'm still trying to control today in a healthcare system where I should feel safe, but we all know I may not survive. You act like you don't see me. You pretend that you don't hear me. You turn your head away from the treatment you know is killing me. Afraid to look in my eyes. Afraid I'm going to tell you the truth. Look at me. Listen to me. You need to know my history. Wait, excuse me. You need to know our collective history, to know who I am, to understand why I fight, just to safely give birth on this land we call America.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Thank you.
That is
Thank you.
powerful.
Thank you.
Powerful. Oh my goodness. So I see why you're 100 women. But even before you were nominated for the 100 Women of Color, just following you and seeing all that you're doing, I really appreciate it. You really brought a lot of things to people's attention that people didn't even know, didn't even think about, you know. And I just really appreciate you. And I'm just so honored to say that we go way back a few years, and it's such an honor to have you here today. And I just want you to look again in the camera. And if you could have a message that you would like to give to young women about their health, and I know you deal mostly with young mothers, but then there are older women too that need, because you did a program with me, remember before, about
Yes,
women's health. So if you
yes.
want to give a message to the women out there, and
Okay. I just want to say that first, and I know we keep hearing this, but for me, it means something different. and I should say, I think it means the same for all of us, but we all matter. Black women matter. Our health is important, and it's important to know, one, that there are people out here that support and that love, that we love each other, that we want Black women to be safe. We have the right to that. I think, sorry, I have a lot of thoughts in my head all at once, but I think the most important thing is that we have a right to be healthy. We have the right to the resources that we need to be able to do that. We have the right to be heard and respected, and that there are people, again, in the community who are doing good things. We're not always acknowledged and seen, but we're here, and I just want you to keep that in mind. But I just want you to know that we all our lives, all our histories have value. And no longer will I be in the shadows. And I just want people to speak up and let everyone know what it is that they need, and that what we can do differently in our society so that everyone can be healthy. I always say that if you improve the health of Black women, you improve the health of the community. If you improve the health of Black women, you improve the health of all women. So we just have to keep that in mind.
Yes. Thank you so much, honey. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having
and
me.
thank you guys for watching. And we'll see. Listen, when this comes out, please share. You see how important it is. The information is so important. So share it with everybody that you can. We're trying to help people. And please share things that are positive. And how positive is this? So we thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.